Hello, Fuzzies. Welcome to my reading log for June of 2024. My final video covering content from the gay month. So, I'm going to be starting off this video with series that publishers I don't have a lot of series from, and working my way through the rest of them. So, starting off with Kuma, which we only had one release through, which was Happy Crappy Life Volume 3. It does look like the status quo is getting shifted a bit in this volume. I don't know if it's going to stick or not. It's still ridiculously horny and just raunchy. Uh, just be careful what what you're getting into when you read this series if you read it. I really love it though. It's There's nothing by Harada so far that I haven't liked. Next, we've got Mask Donchi that shouldn't lead to love. I remember when this was first announced, back when it was, I think it was actually like some Twitter account I saw tweeted about this, like back when it was first serialized in Japan, and I was like, I hope this gets published over here at some point because it looks. I love the mask stuff, and a mask BL is super fun of an idea, and the two characters have great chemistry. I love how it kind of explores some mild trauma and explores characters that don't act the way they seem. I would definitely recommend this if you are above the age of being able to view that raunchy stuff. So next, I'm gonna get into Tokyo Pop, which I had two releases from. With If My Favorite Pop Idol Made to the Budokan, I Would Die, Volume 6. Still love this series. I don't remember too many specifics about what happened in this volume. Um, we do kind of have another idol group that they're having to work with, and we're kind of seeing like the balance between different members, things like that. It is still tough to tell who's who, especially with a whole new group of girls that all have like slightly different hairstyles and kind of similar faces. I feel like if the hair colors were there, like if this was the anime, it'd be easier to tell them apart, but the covers are always like the best part about these volumes, and the spines are really pretty too, with this nice color on each of the different versions. Then we have Since I Could Die Tomorrow, Volume 3, a very honest uh, look at a woman who is starting to go through menopause and kind of evaluating her life. And it's also a bit of a vignette of different people's lives. I enjoy this series. It is pretty depressing to read, though, since obviously it's about older people, people who are starting to age, people who are starting to deal with the idea of dying. Some people finding out they have terminal illnesses and are going to die from them. It's a somber read, but it's a good series so far. It's not that long either. I think it's only one more volume. Then we've got Usotoki Rhetoric, Volume 7. Now, I think this does start with. Okay, no, it does. I think it was the previous volume that started with the young girl kind of following after the detective and trying to figure out what happened with him, but that was the previous volume. I do not remember much of this volume, if I'm being honest. Um, yeah, we do finally get to see the detective's brother and his wife, and they started a mystery that they haven't ended yet in this volume, which is good. I like when the mysteries kind of take time to unfold. Um, so I don't really know what's going to happen from here, but yeah, it's all right. It's enjoyable. Then we've got Villainess Level 99, Volume 3. And in this volume, we introduced the best little dragon, the cutest baby who likes to eat people. Um, Nothing in this volume was too much of a surprise because I've watched the anime up to when it finished the first season. Still a fun, great Villainess series. Then for Square Enix, we've got Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You, Volume 2. This is a bit of an age gap between two people who meet up smoking behind a supermarket. Um, I Their personalities go really really well together. The age gap is not super bad because of they're both like fully developed adults. It's a really good series. I definitely would recommend it to anybody who likes romance. And then we have another romance series with my last Square Enix book, Cherry Magic Volume 11. There are some spoilers, um, so I don't really want to talk about too much with what happens. I'm sure it's easy to tell kind of by just looking at the context clues. But it's a good series. I enjoyed this volume. I don't want to spoil too much of what's going on because you know you kind of want to figure out how their relationship develops on your own. Then we have a single volume from Smudge called Her Frankenstein. I thought this was a really, really interesting horror manga. I think it actually first debuted in 1986, so it is definitely an older, like a classic horror manga. Like I'll just show like you can kind of tell it has that classic horror style, kind of Umez-ish. I only say that because I don't really have many frames of reference for older horror artists in Japan. Um, but essentially, this is about a guy dealing with it's. It starts off with a guy seeing somebody, and we find out that that's part of his trauma, and then we kind of flash back to when he was a kid and find out about that trauma and the things that happened to him, and then we kind of wrap up the story at the end here. It's a really good, interesting horror manga. I would definitely recommend it. It's a bit on the pricier side at $20, but it's a one volume, so I don't think it's that bad to be a bit pricey. I think next I'm going to do Yen Press, starting with The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, Volume 10. We are starting the arc where the villainess is actually kind of embracing her role as a villainess and acting into it a lot more than she has in the past. Previously, she was trying to be a hero, trying to help things, but now to get the plot to move along the way she needs it to, she has to kind of um, assume that villainess role. And I kind of wanted to take a fresh start with this series because I haven't liked it for a while, and I had a friend who read it and said that she really enjoyed it. So it's kind of making me think if maybe I'm looking at this a little more critically than I need to. Um, I mean, I enjoyed this volume. I enjoyed the developments from it. So I'm gonna try and give this series a bit of a clean wipe and see if I enjoy it more going forward than I used to. Next, we've got Elden Ring: The Road to the Erd Tree, Volume 3. This is actually how I found out about a entire subplot that I never actually did in the game until I think like when I was playing the game, I was past the point you're supposed to do it, so I ended up doing it late. But this is good for like kind of helping you figure out quests that you missed if they're like considered important enough to be in the manga. It's a real fun, great comedy though. If you like Elden Ring, you've got to read it as long as you're okay with them being stupid comedy takes on Elden Ring. And I think even if you don't like Elden Ring, it's still a fun series to read. Maybe it'll even get you into Elden Ring for some weird reason. I still don't know why that is. Then we've got Maiden of the Needle, Volume 3. I'm really enjoying these like seamstress series about women gaining power through sewing and their skills with sewing, seeing all the garments and that sort of thing. I think the only issue I have with this series, just in general, is just the really weird like age gap between the main two characters because the main girl is still technically a teenager. Technically a teenager sounds really weird to say, but regardless, she's a teenager. It's the age gap's weird. Um, we get a lot more like lore and background in this volume, which is really good. If you can look past the age gap, it's a very, very good shojo fantasy. I'm assuming it's shojo at least. Then we've got Bloody Sweet Volume 3. I'm hoping this kind of ties into the Volume 4, making the panorama or whatever it's called. Good, fun manhwa series. We get to see like the real effects of bullying on this girl, and we get to see her kind of falling into the role that she was fighting so much against at the beginning, and we get more like explanation of different characters in the universe. I enjoy the series pretty well so far. I also think the main male lead, is pretty cute. Regardless, we have Kowloon Generic Romance Volume 7. This series just keeps getting better and better as it goes along. The mystery just keeps getting deeper somehow, and there's just like more and more facets getting added to it to the point where if when it ends, I'm not even sure how it's going to end. 100% recommend this. I still don't understand the parental advisory on here. The only thing I can think of in this volume that might warrant it is there is a scene where the main character is naked in the shower, but you only see her from like a profile view, so you only see like the outline of her parts. You don't really see anything fully explicit. Nothing that you wouldn't expect to see in like any other shonen. But yeah, Definitely read that one. Next, we've got the debut volume, She Likes Gays, But Not Me, Volume 1. I wasn't going to get this initially. My partner picked it up, and I decided to read it as well. Um, it's a lot. There's depressing stuff in there, but I think the depressing stuff is kind of feels a bit like rushed, so it didn't really hit me that hard as I feel like it should have. Um, Essentially, this girl here absolutely loves BL, yaoi, that sort of thing, and he catches her reading it, and they end up developing a friendship out of that because he's secretly gay, but he doesn't ever want to come out of the closet. He wants to stay the way he is, and he wants to marry a woman as a beard and have children. And we kind of get to explore what happens with their friendship and their relationship as he figures out what he wants to do with his life and who he wants to become. Then we've got Tokyo Babylon Volume 3. Again, gorgeous color cover, and these actually have beautiful like full color posters at the beginning of each of these, which definitely helps the price. Still really, really enjoy this series. This is my first Clamp series that I started picking up, I think. Um, if not, it was the first one I read, or first one I started reading. I can't remember for certain. Um, I think Exorcism, BL, weird twin stuff. The twin stuff's not the BL stuff, though. It's just their twins. um, Very interesting, very fun read. It's another one that's good knowing less when you go into it. And then next we have The Villainess Turns the Hourglass, Volume 3. I actually do not remember much of what happens in this volume, so I'm going to try flipping through some of it. Oh, yes, we do. Essentially, in this volume, it's a lot of building her business venture and establishing herself in the business world, um, building a role for herself, and kind of. I'm not sure why it doesn't mention anything on here. Oh, yes. Yeah. She wants power because she's afraid she's going to lose everything. So she's trying to get this big role in uh, developing a high amount of wealth and a high amount of influence because potentially something is going to happen and she might lose everything. But that's fairly standard villainess fare is just I might get a bad end, so I'm going to try and get rich. Next, we have I Want to Be a Wall, Volume 3. This is the final volume of this series. It's a really touching, slightly comedic look about a asexual woman and a gay man who is fully fixated on one guy that he thinks is never going to return his affections. So they decide to marry each other because their parents have been pushing them to marry, and they kind of want to function as uh, completely platonic partners for each other to get their parents off their back and that sort of thing. And we're kind of wrapping up what happens to them in this volume. It's definitely worth a read, especially if you're interested in queer stories. It's a very good short series, and it's a bit sad at times. Yes, that does tend to happen with a lot of these queer stories. I think next I'm going to do Seven Seas, starting with the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, Volume 10. Yes, Volume 10. We do get a new girlfriend in this volume, and we get a lot of expansion on. I can't say expansion with this series because it's probably going to be some girl that somehow that's her trait. Um, yeah, it's good, fun, stupid, making fun of, but also embracing harem comedy tropes. Really, really weird age gaps in here, but I think I kind of let it go because it's just meant to be nonsensical comedy. Next, we have Night of the Living Cat, Volume 4. I've still been kind of iffy on this series, not really liked it as much as I was hoping I would. Um, we do get an interesting new cat introduced in this volume that kind of shakes up the plot and changes the status quo a little bit. So that's interesting, I guess. Yeah. Next, we have The Tree of Death, Yomotsu Hegui, Volume 2. Really liking this series. Very interesting, like eldritch horrors kind of mixed into a um, Japanese based story. I don't really know a great way to describe this series. It's only a few volumes though, so I would definitely recommend it to anybody who at least likes action or likes mystery or maybe even Eldritchian Eldritch Eldritch horrors, Eldritch inspired horrors, that sort of thing. Uh, I am very much enjoying it. The art is also gorgeous. Then we're going to get into the oversized Seven Seas with The Dangerous Convenience Store Volume 3, introducing this handsome triangle chin man here, who is kind of throwing a weird dynamic in between these main two characters' relationship here. And we use this as a kind of point to learn more about the um, Yakuza male lead's backstory and about who he is and what he does. Very much enjoying this still so far. Less only raunch than the other BL manhwa I have, which is the name. Oh, Punch Drunk Love. That's right. It's right there. Anyways, we've got the Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom, volumes 6 next. Super good series, very fun. If you like Apothecary Diaries, try this. If you don't like Apothecary Diaries, try this. There is no compromise. Read this. It's good. We kind of get some political intrigue in this volume with some factions trying to basically shut off sort of failing on their side, and we have the main characters trying to venture there to figure out what's really going on and actually trying to help the issue. Um, I already said everything I need to say about the series and my opinions on it pretty much. Next, we have Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, Volume 6. We are finishing up a sub arc about two characters in the past here, and finishing up a main arc about uh, this village that we're in. I am enjoying it. It's always difficult for me to get used to all of the honorifics and names used in the series, uh, because Chinese is even more unfamiliar to me than Korean, and this is the only manga I have. Again, that's the only thing that really makes this difficult for me, is getting used to all the honorifics and names. Uh, there is some characters that have extremely similar hairstyles and very slightly different faces that are hard to tell apart, but there's only a couple of them. Next, we have Last Game Volume 5, and it does seem like we're starting to get some development in the relationship in this volume. It's a decent show. I almost said shonen, a decent shoujo romance, nothing too special. It's enjoyable though. If you like shoujo romance, you might like this. Then next we've got My Stepmother and Stepsisters Aren't Wicked, Volume 4. We're kind of starting to get into like a school arc in this volume. The main character getting enrolled in school and meeting a new person who has some opinions about her stepsisters here. Uh, Still enjoyable, still cute. Nothing spectacular though. It does rely a lot on the "I'm not what I really seem like" trope, but it's a decent read still. Next, we have Punch Drunk Love, Volume 2, The Smut. The Smut. I can't read the description seriously. It's something. Yeah, it's something. We get potentially their relationship might be developing further because they've run into a major stopping point in the relationship in this volume. So we might get some development and get them to actually have a real relationship. I don't know. It's all in the heart of the cards, I guess. Next, we have Who Made Me a Princess, Volume 6. Um, that I keep, for some reason, I got that confused with the stepmother's. I got that confused with a stepmother's Marchen. Um, this is kind of feeling like we're getting close to the end of the series because we're like this. We, I don't really want to spoil what happens, but we get an explanation as to why the main bad boy, the father Claude, is becoming the way he is with his amnesia thing. We get to find out some hints as to why that's happening, and we get some maybe villains behind the scenes starting to become unveiled. I can't word. Really good series. Probably up there with like some of my favorite manhwa. Definitely not my favorite though. Next, I'm gonna get Next, I'm going to get into the Viz series, starting with Akane Banashi, Volume 6. We have Akane learning a I don't know the terms at all. I'm just gonna say learning a new Rakugo story at a different Rakugo story from a different master in this volume. We have her trying to prove that she can do it, and then figuring out what happens from there. I don't. I almost just explain the entire plot of this volume. It's really good series. It's an interesting introduction to Rakugo if you haven't heard of it. It does a decent job explaining what the concepts are and what Rakugo is. Then we got Blade of the Moon Princess Volume 4. It's an okay series so far. Um, yeah, we have some revelations in this volume, some things that are going to change how we see certain characters. Um, I'm not that strongly opinionated on it one way or the other. It's an okay series. Then we've got Goku Rakugai Volume 2. And um, kind of feeling about the same on this one. I'm not super invested in it. It's still interesting enough for me to read and see what happens in it. Um, but then again, it's like the genre is not really a type of genre I feel myself drawn to usually. We introduce a new character in this volume, as you can tell by the cover. Uh, she adds an interesting dynamic to the group because she's kind of basically just does everything like perfectly. I honestly cannot remember too much about this volume though, which is unfortunate. Um, but that's what it is. Then we've got Mao, Volume 17. Um, we kind of get like a bit of a Monster of the Week thing going on in this volume where uh, some of the volume is dedicated to this treasure and figuring out where it went, how to stop it, that sort of thing. I think we also had some revelations in this volume. Yeah, it seemed like things were like starting to ramp up and they were starting to figure things out, and then it was like shut down, and then straight into the Monster of the Week thing because of something that happened in the plot. I really enjoy Mao, and I love seeing the mystery deepen. Then we've got Mashal Volume 16. In this volume, we finally get Mash confronting, um, yeah, confronting. Well, I think he's actually not fighting. Yeah, he's fighting like the second in command of Innocent Zero, or one of the stronger members of Innocent Zero. He's not fighting Innocent Zero himself. Um, I think the guy's name is Doom. Yeah, his name's Doom. The entire volume is basically the fight. Super good. I like how it's like drawn out, but not drawn out in a way that feels slow. It's drawn out because they're both very strong competitors towards each other. It has a very good mix of comedy and action in there. I really enjoyed this volume. It was a nice return to form. I think the series is at its best when it relies on the comedy and doesn't go too hard on the action. Then we've got Mission Yozakura Family, Volume 11. We got a very fast exam arc in this volume. They introduced that he would have to pass this exam for something that happens in the plot, and then the volume ends with, I think the volume actually does end with the end of the exam. Yeah, the volume ends with the end of the exam. It was very quick, very brief. Um, but it was nice. I liked the exam arc. I just kind of wish they were able to spend more time on it. Then we've got One Piece Ace's Story, Volume 2. We finish up the story of Ace's story here, and then we have a couple of one-shots, including some of the most egregious fan service in the fight with Nami and Khalifa, which already was very fan service heavy in the main manga, and oh boy, this adaptation is very very fan service heavy on that specific fight in particular. I enjoy Ace's story, the light novel. I enjoy the manga as well, but my only problem with it is that it unfortunately had to rush things and cut out plot points to get it into a two-volume format. Um, Definitely worth a read if you enjoy One Piece, though. Then we've got Rainbow Days, Volume 10. I think this is the volume where I got really annoyed by the end because it seemed like we are developing a relationship that I was hoping we wouldn't be developing. But I do like that this character is like a good, like, like, I can't think of the right word here. She has tendencies towards liking women, and it doesn't get dismissed or overlooked. It does get treated with the agency it should be. But the volume also does have potentially a development into my least favorite relationship of the series, so that might kind of really sour my opinion more so. Then we've got Sakamoto Days Volume 12, featuring Film Boy here. And we are, I think this actually not finishes up, but we're getting close to the end of the fight at the JCC. Let's see. Did I actually finish? I actually cannot remember. Yes, the fight finished, but the evil organization's not gone. Um, so I don't want to spoil exactly what happens at the end of the arc, but the JCC's arc seems to be finished for now, and I don't know what's going to happen next in the story. It is enjoyable though, and I'm looking forward to the anime. Next, we've got Shoha Shoten Volume 5. We are getting into another competition in this volume, a shorter competition that's wrapped up in a single volume. Um, Introducing these two Rakugoka. These two, I guess the stand-up's just called Manzai Comedy. This comedy duo. Um, I kind of don't want to explain too much about what their gimmick is, but we get essentially we're just getting another short arc for the main characters to develop and work and fight against other uh, stand-up comedians to determine what they need to change and how they need to evolve as comedians. It was a good volume. I enjoyed seeing all the different characters and how they interacted with each other, and then the growth of the main two characters from the end of the volume. Next, we have a debut volume. I can't pick up things right now. Full Night, Volume 1. This is a series about essentially all of the plants have died out, and in order for humans to still live, they've created this program to grow plants out of human bodies for people who are close to death or that know they're going to die very soon. And we get this main character who is, I think he's actually decided, yeah, he's decided he wants to give up his humanity and become a plant because doing that ensures that his living family gets the money they need to survive because he will get a large stipend for doing that he'll get to spend on his own, but he's probably also going to contribute it towards taking care of the family, that sort of thing, even though his mom is not stable. Very interesting, very fun read. Fun as in not ooh, but more so just investing, not anything that makes you feel happy. Then we've got Insomniacs After School Volume 6. We are wrapping up the arc where they went out on a photography trip and realizing some feelings maybe in this volume without spoiling too much. Real pretty art in this series, and I think this is actually where the anime ended, or where I stopped watching the anime. One of the two. Next we have Magia Lumiere, Volume 2. Very fun magical girl office type series. Actually, yeah, we get some more explanations about the way the magic works in this volume, and we get to see the main character actually getting challenged in her worldview. Uh, Very fun volume, very fun series in general. Look forward to seeing what else happens with it. I don't know if it has an anime coming out at some point. I feel like it was announced, but I don't know. Then we've got Rooster Fighter Volume 6. We're wrapping up a lot of arcs with these volumes. This is wrapping up a. Actually, I don't think it actually wraps up. I think it actually seems like it's wrapping up, but then stuff happens. It's like a very stupid, very comedic take on like the typical shonen battle series, making fun of like things from the 80s and things like that. But it does seem to be reaching like a serious plot development in this volume, leading over to the next one and figuring out what's going to happen, building up like a background villain that's going to become more in the forefront. Still really enjoy it. Still stupid and fun, but also serious when it needs to be. All right. And then lastly, all I have is a bunch of Kodansha stuff. Get that out of frame. So first of all, we have A Condition Called Love, Volume 8. In this volume, yeah, we get more explanation and character study, I guess, of how Hananori-kun's father acts and why he's the way he is. Even more just not liking that character at all. And I think the main girl even kind of resents him in a bit. I don't know if she's actually said it or not, but we get kind of more of the explanation of why Hananori is the way he is in this volume. Very interesting read as usual. Then we've got Origin, Volume 4 by Boichi. Um, we've got a terrorist attack in this volume, which is super fun. A lot of action, it's mostly action in this volume, honestly. Um, Interesting explanations of why the mechanics work for the robots the way they do. Don't want to spoil too much about it. Then we've got Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun, Volume 8. And this volume is going to be studying and dealing with exams. And it wraps up in this one volume. I think it's pretty quick. It's really fun, though. I love it so much. Y'all definitely need to read this one if you haven't. Or at the very least, watch the anime. Then we've got a debut volume, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity, about a delinquent and a girl from the school that's actually right next to theirs, which is a very expensive, rich person school with a lot of high accreditation behind it. The two buildings sit side by side. One is a normal school that's all boys, and then this is a all girls school. And again, it's super exclusive, and we get a development relationship that might be developing between the two of these characters. I think the series is about their relationship developing. She is he's like the delinquent with a heart of gold archetype, and I can't remember what her thing was. Yeah, I thought she had some sort of specific quirk, but I think she's just a nice, kind girl who eats a lot. Speaks very properly. He doesn't speak properly because, delinquent and all. It's a really good series from what I've read from the first volume so far. Then we're finishing up Magic Knight Ray Earth, Part 1, Book 3. And this is finishing up Part 1 of Magic Knight Ray Earth, wrapping up the plot. Can't explain too much about what's happening because, it's the final volume. It was a nice, good series with really beautiful art, a lot of high fantasy and big eyes, which Clamp does big eyes very well. Then we've got Medalist Volume 2. Excuse me. In this volume we have, I think, the main character entering her... Let's see. I think it's not a badge thing. She's actually entering her first, smaller competition in this volume. And we introduce, I think these are rivals. Well, he's a little too old to be a rival. He's kind of like a rival to the main character, and she's a rival to the main character's protege. It's an ice skating series. It is fantastic, though. Definitely recommend to check it out. Then we've got Nina the Starry Bride, Volume 4, featuring a very interesting exploration of the... I don't know the best way to describe him. The white-haired prince in this volume, figuring out why he's treating her the way he is, why he is the way he is. Can't explain too much without breaking the plot into specific detail. There's a big twist at the end of the volume. Very good series. Pretty art. I've said that a lot, but I mainly like series a lot when they have really good art, and I will comment on them. Then we got Quality Assurance in Another World, Volume 8, featuring I think her name's Nicola? Yeah. Featuring a backstory for Nicola while the time skip was happening, explaining why she is completely different than she was when they first met her, or when they were traveling with her. Enjoyable read. It's a good series so far. Then we have another debut volume. It turns out My Online Friend is My Real Life Boss, Volume 1, with a duo, and the manager is very uptight and very specific about things. at work, and then you know they find out that they're both playing the same game and that they kind of have been flirting a little bit in the game world, and we get to see like ooh, how's that going to affect their relationship at work and their relationship in general. It was a really fun read. I'm looking forward to more of the series, even if it's going to be ages before Volume 2. Then next we've got One Dance Volume 9. I think, yeah, we finish up a very smaller competition with Kaboku and exploring more of Wanda's emotions for Kaboku. Yeah, uh, it's kind of an exploration of both of them separately and how they function away from each other. Um, Really fun series, very dynamic drawings that are a bit difficult to track with your eyes because they're just a lot going on. I definitely want to see it animated. Please excuse me. I'm trying to spin this on my palm because it looks like he's breakdancing, and that would be cool, but it did not work, so that's just awkward. Next, we have The Yearning Fox Lies in Wait. This is a one volume BL, uh, also from the creator of Turns Out My Online Friend Is My Real Life Boss. It is about essentially this long lived person here who turns out to be a kitsune, as you could tell by the title. Um, he knew this guy stumbles across him and his house, and he apparently knew his grandfather and had certain feelings for his grandfather. And we get to explore because he invites him to live with him because he's lost all opportunity to live like on his own. Because I don't remember the specific reason. He essentially needs help living somewhere. Um, and then the fox takes him in, and we get to explore their relationship together. It's a good one-off BL romance. I say BL romance like BL doesn't automatically reply romance. Lastly, we have Big Bertha over here, Makoto Yukimura's Vinland Saga Deluxe, Volume 3, the first one that's not read. This is wrapping up the, I think, like 6 volume prologue before the beginning of the arc that I think a lot of people kind of fell off of Vinland Saga with, the farm arc. I think this is what they were talking about when I heard people talking about the anime. But it's definitely a fantastic series, and I would recommend it to almost anybody. Um, it's a very wordy read, and it does tackle a lot of mature topics. So keep that in mind if you decide to read this. But yeah, it's definitely worth the hype in my opinion, at least. So I think that's everything I read in June of 2024. So I will talk to everybody in my next haul. I'm not sure if I'm going to make another start dive branching out to different forms of manga content. I've thought about it. I need to actually nail down if I want to do it and what I'd want to do. So I'll see you guys probably next month. If not, hopefully sooner. We'll see. Regardless, y'all have a good one.